I'm Rachel Padilla. I'm an artist. I've been picking peaches this week, and I'm just so inspired by the color of my little peaches. They're tiny little things, but the texture is so fuzzy and soft, and the color, it's got these bright red spots and these kind of yellow spots on it. So I thought that I'd put them in this pretty little bowl that I threw and do a still life. I'm often inspired by the beauty of nature, the colors that I find in nature, and the relaxation and the comfort that I find in nature. I've also been busy making peach jam. These peaches are called Cherokee peaches, and I've also heard them referred to as blood peaches. And I guess that kind of explains their color on the inside. Most peaches kind of cast that orange color because they're yellow and orange on the inside with some red. But these peaches are very red on the inside, and it gives this beautiful color to the jam. So let's go ahead and go to the studio and do a still life. So I began this still life by doing a quick sketch of the bowl with the peaches, and then going in and getting some of my darks and my shadows in. Now, it's a little different to paint directly from life than it is from a photograph. So I tried to make some easy steps for me, because when you're drawing from or painting from a photograph that's already two-dimensional, your brain doesn't really have to do a whole lot of work in interpreting how those three-dimensional things are translated onto a two-dimensional space. But when setting up a still life, I like to use a really strong light source. So I set up the bowl with the peaches on a wooden tabletop with a white wall behind, and I used a table lamp to cast those really strong shadows so that my colors would be really clear and I could have really good lines for creating shadows and bright spots. I find that painting shadows and bright spots with a high contrast make a painting a lot more interesting. And I always begin with my darker colors first. So getting those shadows built in first, and then going in over the shadows and building up layers of color from there. And those top layers of color, unless they're really intense and really bright, they tend to be very sheer. I will often use water or a gloss or matte medium, since I'm working with acrylic, to thin out those paints and take those fresh colors on top as I go. And there's a lot of going back. Sometimes I work an area a lot if I don't feel like I've gotten the color just right. Like I had a lot of blue in this background in the white part at first. And then I ultimately went back and made it a little more neutral. Now I'm getting that really peachy color on the peaches that the Cherokee peaches have so much of. A very bright orange skin with a really red flesh, and getting some of those yellows in. And while I was working on the peaches, I really did use a almost dry brush, because I feel like that really lends to getting that fuzzy quality of peaches. So when I'm working with texture, it tends to be a slightly drier brush. When I want something to look smoother, I may use a wetter brush or a lot of matte medium to thin the paints. And just going in, working in darker colors, bringing out the richness of the shadows, the depth in the shadows. And then once I get my initial colors on the palette, I will go back into the darks and into the lights and really work that. I find that it lends a lot of depth to my painting and texture to my painting as I do that. I have this feeling sometimes that as an artist, I should have this inspiration just on tap all the time, and that every painting that I paint should be absolutely brilliant and a masterpiece. And that's just not the case with me anyway. I know that there are times when I have an idea for a painting and it's just so inspired and I can't wait to start. But for the most part, what I do is I just borrow from what's around me. It's like when I did the hydrangea painting. It was because the hydrangeas were so beautiful and blooming. And now I have the opportunity to use the peaches as a source of inspiration. So I started with this exercise of peaches, just trying to get the color and the texture right, and having the contrast of the bowl and the table to work with as a contradicting texture. But I think that starting with just doing the peaches themselves, I've been inspired to do other paintings and other maybe some photos that include my peaches and include figures and self-portraits of eating peaches and holding peaches and just interacting with peaches. So this is how inspiration works for me. I don't always wake up in the morning with a brilliant plan and a brilliant idea, but I know that I need to paint, I need to practice to make myself better and to make my work better. And I like giving myself just that little challenge of painting what is available. And finding that inspiration in the summer months, because I'm such an outdoors, nature-loving kind of person, summer makes it really easy to be inspired and to just paint what is available, whether it's flowers or trees or pathways or peaches. Those things always give me a good starting point. So if you're looking for a starting point for inspiration or what to paint or what to do, just start with the basics of what is around you and what is next to you, what's available. Thank you so much for joining me today for my peach still life time lapse. I'm gonna go and make some more jelly and enjoy a few peaches. So good. Look at those colors.